Now, when you know how the digestive system works, we can talk about nutrition. Nutrition is a process of consuming, absorbing, and utilizing nutrients from food. It also involves the study of how food affects health and well-being of humans. And malnutrition is the unhealthy state that results from either not enough or too much of nutrients. The guidelines for the balanced diet are established by the Department of Agriculture, and they revised and updated every 5 years. And here there's the current guidelines that show what and how much you should eat to stay healthy. And you see the vegetables, the milk products, the proteins, the grains, fruits, vegetables, like kind of in the same amounts, plus physical activity daily. And here's just the table to show you what these elements of healthy diet contribute to your body. If you want, you can go over it. You probably know it well already. So nutrients. Nutrients are compounds found in food that our body uses for functioning and health. They are needed for energy, as building blocks. They're involved in the regulation of various processes. And usually they're classified into macronutrients, like something that we need in a big amounts. And these are carbs, fats, proteins, and water. And micronutrients. And these are vitamins and minerals that are usually needed in much smaller amounts, like milligrams or micrograms. I already had the slides, so what should the proper diet give to us? Fuel to power the body, building blocks to create the molecules of our own body, and also compounds that our body cannot synthesize by itself. So fuel for the body is provided by the carbs, proteins, and fats. They constitute 90% of dry weight of our diet, and they can be digested and used, and that's what provides the energy for our body. They're a little bit different in their capacity or their energy carrying ability. Usually fats are better. Fats contain 9 calories per gram, and carbs and proteins is about 4 calories per gram of the compound. As molecules to build the other body molecules, the food is digested into these small components, the building blocks, like amino acids for the proteins, or sugars for polysaccharides, or fatty acids for lipids, and then recycled, they're used for building these new proteins, carbs, or fats. Here I should say it's not that directly, it's not that sugars can be used only to build polysaccharides, or amino acids to build only proteins, or fatty acids only to build fats. They can actually be converted into each other, and you know it, for example, somebody who eats a lot of sweet things, like carbs, sugars, can accumulate a lot of fat. So sugars in these cases will be converted into fat molecules. But the compounds that I wanted to talk a little bit more in detail are essential nutrients. These are substances that our body cannot synthesize, so we have to consume them with food. And there are 4 classes of these essential nutrients: essential fatty acids, amino acids, vitamins, and minerals. You see there are no carbs here. So essential fatty acids, please don't mix them with essential oils that you can buy in the stores. Essential oils are extracts of aromatic compounds from plants usually. Essential fatty acids are chemical compounds. There are only two of them that humans require. There's a so-called omega-3 fatty acid and omega-6 fatty acid. And the excellent sources of these omega acids are fish, shellfish, various seeds and nuts, some leafy vegetables, walnuts, and it was shown that the level of consumption of omega-3 fatty acids can determine the level of depression. So it decreases, like if you eat a lot of omega-3 fatty acids, that decreases the rates of major depression. So essential fatty acids. The other category are essential amino acids. There are, if you remember, again from lecture 1, there are 20 amino acids. 12 of them can be synthesized by the human body, but 8 of them have to be consumed with food. And usually this is not the problem when the person eats animal products, meat or milk. So because all the animal proteins have all types of amino acids. If the person is a vegetarian, especially vegans, which means they only eat plants that come from proteins, that can be a little tricky because many plant proteins are deficient in some essential amino acids. Let's say if you're, for some reason, you only eat corn, but you don't eat beans, that means you will be lacking 2 amino acids like tryptophan and lysine, because they are present in beans but lack in corn. Or if you, for some reason, you hate corn and you never eat it, but you eat only beans, you will be missing methionine, is one of these 8 essential amino acids. So what I'm saying is that I'm saying that vegans or vegetarians shouldn't exist. Again, it's a personal choice, and I don't think it's something bad, but they have to take more, to bring more attention to their diet and combine different types of vegetarian or vegan food. So they will have the full set of amino acids and can build their own proteins. Minerals, these are inorganic nutrients, and usually we don't need a lot of them. We need some of them, they're called bulk minerals, like sodium, potassium, calcium, phosphorus, magnesium. And there are also trace minerals that are absolutely essential, but we need much less of them, like iron, zinc, copper, cobalt, selenium, and so on. Why do we need? They're simply components of the body fluids, like, for example, sodium and potassium. They play important roles in many physiological processes, like, for example, transmission of nervous signal, sodium and potassium, in the between the neurons. They're part of the skeleton, like calcium and phosphorus. They provide muscle contraction and a lot of other reactions in the cell. That's calcium. They're needed for the hormone production, like iodine, and to carry oxygen in the blood, we need iron, and multiple other processes. So they're also can be parts of enzymes, and if enzymes don't have these metals in them, they will not work. So ions are metal ions are very important, and non-metal ions are very important for many processes in the body. And here I have the tables. It's not something that you have to know, but just for your information, you can go through them and see what happens why you need these elements, and what happens if you don't have enough of them. So these are macro, like the bulk minerals, the ones that we need, like decent amounts in the body, and these are trace minerals. And the last category are vitamins. Vitamins are organic molecules, and they are needed in the organisms in a very small amounts. But again, without these small amounts, the body will not work. Usually they are involved in reactions of the enzymes, the reactions catalyzed by enzymes. Humans need 13 vitamins. All these vitamins were discovered in the first part of the 20th century, and their importance was recognized pretty fast. Already in 1935, vitamin B and vitamin C became commercially available. And in the 50s, already when the mass production of vitamins started, including multivitamins that have the whole range of these 30 vitamins that we need. And now you can buy them in any store and in any variation. Vitamins are separated into two groups. 4 of them are soluble in fat and insoluble in water. And the rest of them are soluble in water. And here are the lists, and I'm sure maybe you don't know them by the numbers, or you might know them by the letters, but I'm sure you heard of at least some of them, and like vitamin D or vitamin E, or all these B vitamins, and each of them has a particular name. So there are differences between them because of their properties. So fat-soluble vitamins, because they're not soluble in water, they usually are absorbed from the digestive tract with fats. So vitamin A is essential for vision because it's part of the vision molecules in the eye, and the deficit of vitamin A can lead to blindness. Vitamin D is essential for the bone growth. E prevents the so-called antioxidant. It prevents molecules from the stress in our body. Vitamin K is the one that's produced by intestinal bacteria, and it's important for the blood clotting. Vitamin E is an excellent example of kind of a general principle in biology when too much is bad and too little is bad. That I kind of compared it to the Goldilocks, which tried to find the perfect bed, the perfect bowl of porridge, the perfect chair. So hypervitaminosis is the situation when the body doesn't have enough of the vitamin. This is usually not a case for the fat-soluble vitamins, for the reason that the body can store these vitamins. But for these vitamins, hypervitaminosis, when there's too much of the vitamin, is much more common and can cause a very negative consequences. Like, for example, vitamin A, as I said, is needed for a good vision, but excess of vitamin A will be damaging for the liver, and if the person eats too much vitamin A, that would be lethal. There is a story, I don't know how true it is, but I read about it a couple of times, that during the Second World War, when Nazis were on some northern territories, the locals fed them the livers of seals, and probably these livers are very delicious because I guess they're very fat, and they also contained a lot of vitamin A, so much that this amount of vitamin A killed the people, killed the soldiers. Or vitamin E, at some point in time, it was considered like as a universal antioxidant, very important, helping cells to stay young for a long time and people to stay younger for longer periods of time. But it turned out if you overeat the vitamin E, that increases the risk of heart attack. So again, it's important for the vitamins to have the right amounts of them. And here there's the list of vitamins A and D, where you can find them and what they do and what the consequences can be, either of deficiency or excess. Water soluble vitamins, it's all these vitamins of group B and plus ascorbic acid or vitamin C. They are important for many, they're parts of the enzymes, and they're important for many reactions in the body. Vitamin C, I already showed you, the scurvy is the lack of vitamin C with all its consequences. Only C and B12 can be stored in the organisms. All the other vitamins have to be taken with food on a regular basis, so you always have supply of them. Hypervitaminosis in these cases can happen and can cause very drastic consequences. And in a second, I'll show you some examples. Hypervitaminosis are rare because usually if you have excess of these vitamins, you simply pee them out in urine. So when you have the bottles of with vitamins and it says like, oh, it's 1,000 units of the vitamin and or 100 daily doses of the vitamin, okay, it's fine, but you will be able to use only one dose of it and the rest of it will be excreted in urine. So this is the table of these vitamins. So if you want, you can go and see what happens if you don't have enough, where you can find them, what happens if you don't have enough of them, and what happens if you have too much of them. Just some examples of lack of vitamins. Vitamin B1, thiamine. The disease is beriberi. It affects the heart. It affects, it causes the very beating of the heart, shortness of breath, swelling of the legs, but then it affects the nervous system and the numbness of the hand and feet, the confusion, the trouble of moving and pain. And here you see the patient with beriberi disease. Or scurvy that I already mentioned. Because of the lack of vitamin C, the collagen is not synthesized in the body, and that disturbs and damages the connective tissues in the body. So people feel sluggish, they want to sleep, they develop shortness of breath, pains, changes in the skin. There are lesions like the sores on the skin that do not heal well. The teeth, the gum bleeds, and then the person loses the teeth. And at the late stages, the personality changes, and then the person can die. And this is rickets. It's the deficit of vitamin D. Vitamin D is involved in calcium, deposition of calcium in the bones. So the ones that lack this vitamin D can have very soft bones. And here you see the example of the normal child and kids with rickets, and the X-legged or the bow-legged are typical symptoms of rickets. But it doesn't end with just like with bone deformations. It also affects the brain. It causes cardiovascular damage and delayed development. Rickets, I wouldn't say it's a problem, again, in the United States, especially if you drink milk, because very often you see milk fortified with vitamins A and D. But also it requires to be synthesized. The active form is produced under the sunlight. And like people who live in Alaska, people who live above the polar circle, when they have the polar night and don't have a lot of sun, they can be affected by the rickets. The next topic will be nutritional disorders.